meeting number 246 of today, the 30th of August 2022. Welcome. If we can then go on through the regulatory reports, can we go on through the agenda? Everyone has had access of the agenda since it's been uploaded on BoardPad. Are we happy with the agenda as is, or do we have any amendment proposals to the agenda? I see there's a hand up, but unfortunately I can't see whose hand it is. Can you assist Ms. Faye?
Ma'am, I just want to see. It is Mr. Mavuso's hand that is up.
Yes.
So just an hour ago, the team informed me that we should withdraw 5.2 because this matter is actually an REC matter and there's already a round robin going to the members. So apologies for that.
Thank you, Mr. Mavuso. That is noted. 5.2 is being withdrawn, which is the application for the amendment of Schedule 3 of the generation license of RCL Foods Pty Ltd. It's an REC matter. Noted, Mr. Mavuso, the item is withdrawn. Any other comments or changes to the agenda? By show of hands, please.
Ms. Massetti had her hand up.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Ms. Massetti.
Thank you, Chairperson. I dropped it, but I thought that as a practice at the ER, it is the members of the regulator that will withdraw matters that are brought by their subcommittees. So I think it is important then for staff and management to then talk to their regulator members so that we can at least confirm at these meetings, because now we accept a withdrawal without even getting the benefit of Mr. Gumede indicating whether he's comfortable with that proposal as matters are presented by the members. I just wanted to bring that up, Chairperson. It has been a standard that has been maintained throughout. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. No, I have noted as well, but I assume that because he said it's something that has happened in the last hour, and also taking into account Mr. Gumede's health condition. But Mr. Gumede, if you are in the meeting, I would appreciate it if you can confirm that your team has confirmed with you about the withdrawal of the item. Please, that would be appreciated.
Good morning, Chairperson. Yes, I did raise my hand earlier to indicate that I am present when the apologies were being considered. The team has indeed raised it, but I think the protocol as raised by Madam Massetti is indeed the correct protocol. I should have been requested to request the withdrawal, and we'll do that going forward. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gumede. That is noted. Okay, the item has been withdrawn. Are there any other comments on the agenda or proposed changes? If not, can we move for adoption of the agenda with the changes, with the withdrawal of item 5.2 by a show of hands? Who is willing to move? Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. Okay, and then the adoption has been seconded by the various members, Ms. Sithole, Ms. Massetti, and Mr. Gumede. Thank you very much, members. The agenda has been officially adopted. And then if we can then go on through the item 4, which is the declaration of interest. If there's anyone who's got anything that I'd like to declare, they must feel free to declare now. However, I also would like to implore members to please make sure, and everyone in the meeting, that they complete the declaration of interest forms and forward same to the RSU. Thank you. And then if we can then go on to the main agenda, which is item 5, the report of the chairperson of the electricity subcommittee. We've got item 5.1, which is a Eskom Holdings application for a 3-year NPA with ArcelorMittal South Africa Saldanha Works, situated in the Western Cape. It's an item that's before the ER for approval. Over to you, Mr. Gumede.
Thank you, Chairperson, and good morning again to you, the members of the Energy Regulator, management and staff, and any of the public that are attending this meeting remotely or virtually. Chairperson, we are here as the ELS to request that the Energy Regulator approve Eskom's application for a 3-year NPA with ArcelorMittal South Africa for the Saldanha Works project situated in the Western Cape. This matter, Chairperson, is based on an application that was made by Eskom for a 3-year NPA with AMSA Saldanha Works, in line with the amended short-term framework for the NPAs approved by the Minister of Mineral Resources and Energy on the 20th of August 2020. On the 18th of February 2022, the Energy Regulator published the Eskom's application for a 3-year NPA on the NERSA website with an invitation to the stakeholders to submit comments, and the closing date for those comments was the 5th of April 2022. And subsequently, at the meeting of the ELS of the 5th of July, the ELS noted to the request to approve the NPA, or rather to recommend the NPA to the Energy Regulator for approval. At the meeting, the members raised a number of issues. I think I'm just going to mention a couple. There were questions from the members of the ELS regarding questioning whether ArcelorMittal will be reverting back to standard tariff after 3 years. And the response from management was that the intention would be to transition Saldanha Works back to a standard tariff. However, that would depend on market conditions, such as other input costs, because electricity or energy is a major input cost in terms of steel making. Linked to that, I guess, was the issue of whether a cost-benefit analysis had been done. Basically, management's response was that without an NPA, the restart of the Saldanha Works was unlikely, and therefore that would essentially result from zero sales in respect of this particular customer. Therefore, zero revenue to Eskom, but also it's really just about the contribution, I guess, that Saldanha Works would have in the general economy of South Africa, both in terms of employment as well as in terms of the income. So, Chairperson, I won't go through other matters that were raised by the ELS. I take it that it's been read. But, Chair, just wanting to say, as the subcommittee, we are here to request that the ER approve the 3 items as listed under paragraph 6. Approve the RFD. Basically approve the NPA, and secondly, approve the associated reasons for decision, and that the RFD be shared with Eskom, and then it be published on the NERSA website. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kometa. I know all ER members who are in attendance today are also members of the ELS. Just if we've got any comments, feel free if you've got any comments or question or a point to make on the item that is before us, by a show of hands, please. Okay, I don't see any hands, and also I don't have any additional question or a question that I'd like to pose to the team. There being no questions before us, then I'd like to take you to the recommendation, which is on item 6, page 18 of 1279. ELS, okay. ELS recommends that the Energy Regulator approves the RFD for the Eskom application for a 3 and NPA with AMSA Saldanha Works situated in the Western Cape. 2, that the RFD be shared with Eskom. And 3, the publication of the RFD on the NERSA website. By a show of hands, are we happy to approve the item before us? Thank you, Madam Masetti. I'm also happy to approve. Thank you, Advocate. Thank you, Mr. Gumede. Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. The item has been approved, Mr. Gumede. Thank you. If you can then take us to the next item, which is the application for the amendment of Schedule 3 of the generation license of RCL. Oh, this one has been withdrawn. Sorry about that. And then if we can go to 5.3, which is the publication, notice of publication of the consultation paper on the electricity price determination methodology for electricity supply industry in South Africa. If you can please take us through the item, Mr. Gumede.
Thank you, Chairperson. This item is here for noting. Again, Chairperson, noting that all members of ER are current members of the ELS. This is it's here for the ELS is here to request the ER to note the consultation paper that was published for consultation. And the consultation paper is in respect of the multi-year pricing determination approach that was in terms of the electricity industry as a departure from the multi-year determination of ESCOM revenues. This was published for comment as indicated. Basically, on the 24th of June, members of the ELS considered the consultation paper and resolved that a round-robin submission be submitted to members, as was not enough time to process a submission. A round-robin submission was hence published, and the following questions, maybe just a couple of issues that were raised. Members requested that the rationale for the reasons the members requested that the shortcomings of the current MYPD be highlighted. Secondly, they requested that the previous stakeholder comments, which were comments that arose from the principals document, that those also be included. And members indicated that there was a need for an internal session on setting of tariffs and approval of revenues. Chairperson, there has been a number of workshops that have been held both internally and with key stakeholders on the methodology. But in terms of the analysis itself, that will still be coming. But this was really just this item is only to note the consultation paper that was published. So, Chairperson, I'd just like to then take the members to the decision that is sought, which is on page 9 of 10 or page 152 of 1279, that I will request that the ER note the publication of the consultation paper for the determination of electricity prices for the electricity supply industry in South Africa. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gumede. Members, we've got the item in front of us. Feel free to engage with the item. I know we were all part of the various engagements on the item, the meeting, as well as the workshop when the item was being workshopped with us. If there's anything in addition to what we've had discussions and engaged on, feel free, by a show of hands, to raise that at this forum. Are there any additional comments or questions on the item? This item is before the energy regulator for noting. It's for publication of the consultation paper for the EPDM. There being no hands, can we then go on to item 6, which is the recommendations? The energy regulator has requested to note the publication of the consultation paper of the electricity price determination methodology for electricity supply industry in South Africa. By a show of hands, are we happy to note the item before us? Thank you, Madam Maseti. Thank you, Mr. Mkize. Thank you, Mr. Gumede. Thank you, Advocate Sithole. I'm also happy to note the item. Thank you. Mr. Gumede, item 5.3 before the energy regulator has been noted. If we can then go on to item 6 of the agenda, which is the report from the chairperson of the Pipe Gas Subcommittee. We've got in front of us or before us the minutes of the PGS meeting number 168 of the 6th of June, 2022. And then we'll request Madam Maseti to take us through the item. I don't know if it's just one set of meetings. Yeah, it's one set of minutes before us. Over to you, Madam Maseti.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, I present the minutes of the meeting of the Piped Gas Subcommittee, and that meeting was held on the 6th of June, 2022. I do not have any issues to emphasize in these minutes, Chairperson. I will take them as read, and I'm happy to provide any clarification from the members. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Maseti. Members, do you have any comments or would like to make on the minutes before us? I think most members are part of this, except for me, of course, of the PGS. I've got just a question on item 5.2, where there was a discussion about the 3-year rolling compliance inspection and audit plans for the licensed and registered facilities. Item 5.2a, there was an indication that it will help if certain questions are posed and require licenses or other related authorities where there's a complementary, there's a jurisdiction across the board to assist in providing some of the information. But what I couldn't make out of this statement is what exactly was being envisaged here. What sort of questions or what authorities were looking to address those questions, because apparently there's some additional information that was required from other jurisdictions, from other regulators across the board. So if you can assist maybe in unpacking this, because I don't think I understood it correctly. And then there's another one. I just need to understand my comment. Indeed. Okay, maybe if you can just answer that question. I'm trying to understand my other comment that I've noted down here on board pad.
Thank you, Chairperson. That item relates to its physical inspections that are done in this infrastructure that we license. Now, there are issues of safety, for instance, that the team, when it goes out for inspections, they must take that into consideration. Now, the question is that safety is not our primary mandate, but it is sort of complementary in a way, and it's something that we should do with other bodies that are required to look into safety issues. We have maintained that position at the ELS for quite some time, so that's why it was lifted up when the team brought the inspection plan. So we wanted the team to just uplift the strategy that they're going to employ in dealing with safety issues when they undertake physical inspections. So we just wanted to make sure that it is sufficiently covered in the plan. So that's what it deals with. I think the spelling there of complementary, I'm sorry about that. It's incorrect, but it's the complementary with the E, just to show the complementary jurisdiction with the E. Yes, on that sentence. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Maseti. No, I'm covered. The latter part of my question is actually also covered. Thank you very much. I don't have any further comment on the minutes. Members, are we happy to then note the minutes of the PGS that was held on the 6th June 2022, which is meeting number 168? By a show of hands, please. Thank you, Advocate. Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. Thank you, Mr. Kumete. And I'm also happy to, and Madam Maseti, I'm also happy to note the item. The minutes under item 6.1 have been noted. If we then go on to the next agenda item, which is the Petroleum Pipeline Subcommittee, agenda item 7, if I can then hand over to you, Mr. Mkhize. The first report on the agenda is the Engen Petroleum's Limited's application for the second amendment of the conditions of the combined license. If you can please take us through the item, Mr. Mkhize, over to you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I firstly would like to apologize apologize for my executive manager, Madam Twa, who's on leave, and Mr. Martin Untit is standing in for her, and Martin will also weigh in on some of these issues as we proceed or to deliberate on them, should such a need arise. I'm just going to present here the submission on Engen's application for the second amendment of the conditions of the combined license issued for the operation of its petroleum pipelines and storage system in Island View and prospecting in Durban, KwaZulu-Natal province. This is the amendment that seeks to redefine some pipelines to auxiliary pipelines, reallocating some pipelines and tanks of other licenses, and removing assets that do not require licensing in terms of the Petroleum Pipelines Act. To also would like the ER to approve the decision and reasons for decision document, as well as the addendum to the conditions of the combined license that was issued to Engen for the operation of its petroleum facilities, as earlier highlighted. The issue of the authority was dealt with, recognizing that it needs to go through the PPS to be recommended for approval by the ER. Under 4, there's an executive summary there, which shows also the relationship of this application with the other application for the issuing of a new license to operate the South Tank Farm Storage Tanks, as well as the amendment of the wet operation license to include the Engen refinery storage tanks and the pipelines from Island View, which is the refinery to tank farm or tank terminal project by Engen, dubbed as RTT. But we're not dealing with those just that they are related to this one. Maybe just on the background, I take the submission as read. On the background, paragraph 5, it explains what the combined license entailed that was issued on the 15th of February 2010 by the energy regulator to Engen Petroleum Limited in terms of section 15 of the Petroleum Pipelines Act, and the various petroleum product storage facilities that are located at the Island View Site D and Site C, as well as the ballast water tank and Island View Site D, which does not have any petroleum storage tanks. And then the crude oil storage tanks that are located at the South Tank Farm in Prospecting, next to the Shell and BP South Africa petroleum refinery known as SAPREF. And then the 7 approximately 8.5 kilometer long unidirectional transfer pipelines linking the Engen refinery in Wentworth and its storage sites in Island View B, C, and D sites. And then the 13 process pipelines linking Island View B, C, and D sites, as well as ballast water tank and the respective sites to beds 5, 6, 7, and 8 in Island View, as well as the 16-inch, 7-kilometer long pipeline connecting the crude oil South Tank Farm storage tanks to the engine refinery. With that, there was a discussion around the issue of the pipeline system, where we've got pipelines and storage systems, the pipelines and storage facilities lumped together as a system, when actually the Act only recognizes a pipeline system, and therefore there was a need to then rearrange or redefine those facilities, amongst other things, to be able to then set tariffs for the pipelines and approve tariffs for the storage tanks and its auxiliary services. So in paragraph 9 outlines then the brief description of the second amendment of the engine combined license, which entails redefining and removing the word system, and amongst other things, even to exclude the tech, which is actually not storing any product and therefore shouldn't be there in the first place, and then to include the other newly constructed pipelines. I won't just name them one by one, as they are clearly outlined in paragraph 9, which I think the members have gone through them and are well acquainted with this submission. I will leave it at that, Chairperson, and hand over back to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mkhize, for that presentation. Members, do we have any questions or comment on the item that has been presented to us by Mr. Mkhize, which is the Engen Petroleum's application for the second amendment of the conditions of its combined license? By a show of hands, please. Thank you, Mr. Kumete. If you can please go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Chairperson. As you know, I'm a member of the PPS. I do support the recommendation of the committee presented by its chairperson. I do, however, just wanted to raise something that was highlighted to me, that I think it would be useful that if we could have, there are these nice tables, the table that was put forward as an executive summary. I don't know if it's possible that going forward, if we could have something similar to the extent possible in terms of all other submissions, including electricity reports. But precisely the point I wanted to raise was the table under paragraph 15, table 4, which talks to the timelines. I think it would be useful that if all submissions could indicate when something was received, how long it took, basically just have that nice summary there that then indicates, because that talks to our regulatory efficiency. So I really thought that this was a very useful summary of events, and also just an indication in terms of how long we are taking to make decisions, and to indicate where delays may be, so that it can facilitate us improving our operations. That's all, Chairperson, but I do support the actual recommendation of the committee. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kumete. I will take it that there are no other comments or questions on the item. I also don't have any specific questions on the item, and the presentation and the report itself was quite comprehensive. Members, by a show of hands, we've got the recommendation before us, which is, I think it's on page 16, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, it's on page 16 of 39, under para 40. 41, to request the energy regulator to consider and approve, 1, the second amendment of the conditions of the combined license issued for the operation of its petroleum pipelines and storage system in Island View and Prospect in Durban, KZN, This entails redefining some pipelines to auxiliary pipelines, reallocating some pipelines and tanks of other licenses, and removing assets that do not require licensing in terms of the Petroleum Pipelines Act 2003, Act 60 of 2003, hereinafter referred to as the Pipelines Act. 2, the decisions and reasons for decision document attached here to as Annexure A. And 3, the addendum to the conditions of the combined license issued to Engen for the operation of its petroleum facilities, which is attached as Annexure 1 of the RFD. By a show of hands, members, are we happy to consider and approve this item, and those specific recommendations that I've just read? By a show of hands, please. Thank you, Mr. Kumete. Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. Thank you, Madam Maseti. Thank you, Madam Sithole. I'm also happy to approve the item. Mr. Mkhize, item 7.1 has been approved. Thank you very much. If we can then go on to 7.2, which is SFF's application for the second amendment of the conditions of its combined license. If you can please take us through the item, Mr. Mkhize. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. The energy regulator is requested to consider and approve the second amendment of the conditions of the combined license issued to SFF, Strategic Fuel Fund Association, for the operation of a crude oil storage facility, a loading facility, and pipelines in Saldanha Bay by recategorizing and rephrasing the description of the 2 pipelines in the license conditions to be auxiliary to the loading facility. In other words, not being standalone and having 3 separate licenses for or looking at the loading facility, the pipeline, as well as then the storage facility for the crude oil. And then to also then approve also the decision and reasons for decision document, as well as the addendum to the license condition as attached in the RFD document. I would just like to highlight that this pertains to the facility that was whose license was issued on the 28th of March 2011 by the energy regulator, which is a combined license with storage facilities consisting of 6 storage tanks, with a combined capacity of about 7.1 million cubic meters, and then the loading facility with 3 arms, and as well as 2 pipelines, each 8.35 kilometers long. One is 42-inch in diameter, and the other is 20-inch in diameter. The 42-inch diameter pipeline transport crude oil from the loading arms to the storage facility, and vice versa. Otherwise, it's bi-directional. And then the 20-inch diameter pipeline is a displacement pipeline used to operate the 42-inch pipeline. And then on the 28th of February 2022, SFF then submitted an application to NERSA in terms of Section 23(1), subsection 1A of the Act for the second amendment of the conditions of the operation license, where the amendment is actually being sought here is that there must be a rewording of the description of the license facilities in this license, such that the pipelines are seen as auxiliary to the storage to the loading facility at the port or harbor. So currently, these are like 3 distinct types of facilities, as I mentioned earlier on: storage, loading, and pipeline. And we need they seek just to combine them. That is in essence what they are requesting, and the recommendation from PPS is that the regulator approves this application. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mkhize, for that presentation. Members, we've got the item before us, which is the Strategic Fuel Funds application for the second amendment of the conditions of its combined license. Do we have any specific questions or comment on the item that would like to pose to the team, Mr. Mkhize and his team? Okay, there doesn't seem to be any questions for you, Mr. Mkhize, and your team. If we can then go on to the recommendation, which is on page, it's page 8 of 8 or 8 of 16 years, under 24. It is recommended that the energy regulator considers and approve the second amendment of the conditions of the combined license issued to the SFF for the operation of a crude oil storage facility, a loading facility and pipelines in Saldanha Bay by recategorizing and rephrasing the description of the two pipelines in the license conditions to be auxiliary to the loading facility. The decision and reasons for decision document attached here to as Annexure A. And 3, the addendum to the license conditions attached as Annexure 1 to the decisions and reasons for decision document mentioned in 2B above. So there is a request for us to consider and approve the item before us. By a show of hands, members, are we happy to consider and approve this item? Thank you, Mr. Gumede. Thank you, Madam Masetti. Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. I am also happy to approve the item. Thank you, Advocate Sithole. Item 7.2, which is SFF's application for the second amendment of the conditions of its combined license, have been approved. If we can then go on to the next item, which is item 7.3, the RR oil tanking MOGS Saldanha application for the first amendment of conditions of its combined license. Mr. Mkhize and your team, if you can please take us through the item. Madam Masetti, your hand is still up. Mr. Mkhize, if you can please take us through the item.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chairperson. I hope everyone notes that the next two items are mainly just confirmation of or noting of the round robin approvals that were granted. I don't want to take long because already there've been approvals in this regard, and the approval pertains to the application by Oil Tanking MOGS Saldanha RFPTY Ltd. We normally refer to them as OTMS, for the first amendment of the conditions of the combined license issued to it for the operation of a crude oil storage facility and pipelines in Saldanha Bay, Western Cape Province. This first amendment mainly was around the inclusion of the operation of a 16-inch and approximately 1.375 kilometer long new unidirectional pipeline that interconnects the OTMS storage facility to the Astron Energy pipeline, which transport crude oil from the Strategic Fuel Fund Association, which is the SFF storage facility in Saldanha Bay, to the Astron Energy refinery in Milnerton. The refinery is currently not in operation, but being prepared towards operation which is imminent. That indicated that it will be around September next month or the month after. That is just to highlight that this pipeline might not be in operation as such now, but everything is prepared for that. And fortunately, yesterday with the team members went to Saldanha to also see for themselves. this system, which is indeed in place and workable, and as well as just to also have the diagram which shows the route of the aforementioned pipeline facility, and then also to look at the to approve the commencement date of the operation of the new pipeline, and then a table containing the details of the aforementioned new pipeline to be included. So the decision was also, and reason for decision document was also part of the approval, as well as the addendum to the license conditions. I will leave it at that, Chairperson, mainly for noting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mkhize. This item was actually approved via round robin by most members. It was circulated via board pad. So the item is before the energy regulator for noting. By a show of hands, members, are we happy to note the item, which is item 7.3, all taking Mox Saldanha application for the first amendment of the conditions of its combined license. Thank you, Madam Maseti. Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. Thank you, Advocate Sithole, and thank you, Mr. Gumede. I'm also happy to note the item. Thank you very much. If we can then go on to the next item, which is item 7.4. It's a confirmation of approval that was done via round robin as well. It's NERSA's views regarding the proposed measure between Strategic Fuel Fund and Avedia Energy. Mr. Mkhize, if you can please take us through this item. Please, over to you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I think other matters related to this round robin approval, I think, will be dealt with as part of governance, because they talk to the issue of providing inputs as would be solicited by other players, particularly other authorities, as well as government departments from time to time, how to ensure that this could be done quite expeditiously, as we envisage that we were kind of late in submitting this input that was requested by the Competition Commission of South Africa with regard to the merger between Strategic Fuel Fund Association and Avedia Energy. And this was duly processed despite the lateness, and got the approval of the members of the energy regulator. As I indicated, in terms of the lateness, it remains a concern, but be as it may, it was approved via round robin, and we are appreciative to that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mkhize. Members, we've got the item before us, which has already been approved via a round robin, which is our views regarding the proposed measure between the Strategic Fuel Fund and Avedia Energy. The communication that came from the Competition Commission. Are we happy to note the item? By a show of hands, please. Thank you, Mr. Gumede. Thank you, Madam Maseti. Thank you, Advocate Sithole. I'm also happy. Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. I'm also happy to note the item. Thank you. Item 7.4 has been noted. And then if we can go on to item 7.5, which is the minutes of the previous meetings of PPS, meeting number 160 of 4 May 2022 and meeting number 161 of 3 June 2022. Over to you, Mr. Mkhize, to take us through the item.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I don't want to maybe highlight any specific items out of these two sets of minutes, but just to highlight my gratitude to the members of PPS as well as the Secretariat, not forgetting management. I think the robustness of engagement in that committee has assisted also to get the team to improve in terms of the drafting of submissions and as well as the presentation thereof, as attested earlier on when Mr. Kumete was highlighting the engine's submission. So I'm really grateful for that, and we can only improve if we don't sit back. I think the only way would be up. So that is all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. There's some praises to the team, for the robust engagement in the PPS meetings and also the continuous improvement, as you go along, engaging on issues and make sure that you do things better as a way of continuous improvement. Members, we've got the 2 sets of minutes before us. That's minutes of the 4th of May, as well as the 3rd of June. They are both for noting. If you've got any specific questions or comment on the minutes themselves, please by a show of hands. Personally, I do not have any comments on both sets. I've gone through them. I don't have any comment or point of clarity. By a show of hands, any comments on the item? Okay, there are no hands that have been raised. Can we then move to note the minutes of the PPS meeting number 160 of 4 May 2022? By show of hands. Thanks, Mr. Mkhize. Thank you, Madam Maseti. Thank you, Advocate Sithole. I'm also happy to note the item. Thank you, Mr. Kumete. The first set of minutes of meeting number 160 of 4 May 2022 has been noted. And then if we can also note the second set, which is minutes of meeting number 161 of the 3rd of June 2022, by show of hands, please. Thank you, Mr. Kumete. Thank you, Madam Maseti. Thank you, Mr. Mkhize and Advocate Sithole. I'm also happy to note this second set of minutes, which is minutes of the 3rd of June 2022. The set of minutes for the PPS have been noted, and we've come to the end of